That's my contribution to the Jake, Logan, Tristan, and Andrew Tate thing, is you don't do MMA because the Pauls will win. You don't do kickboxing because the Tates will win. You do boxing in MMA gloves. So when I sat on Santa's lap this year, I asked him to give me good topics over the Christmas break. And Santa delivered. Look, it's not even Christmas yet. And I get to see this. First thing when I look today. The fix is in. Latest Jake Paul boxing event under investigation after suspicious six-figure wagers. Ooh. Yikes. That's not good for everybody involved, right? Jake Paul gets his name in the paper for fight fixing after everyone was already kind of like, that last fight didn't really look very normal. It just didn't look right to me. We're going to talk about the very specific story around the fight fixing accusations or the investigation. And yeah, we also have a couple other very notable topics. So we're going to talk about the Logan Paul, Jake Paul, Tristan Tate, Andrew Tate MMA fight. Mighty Mouse, good God, I almost called him Deontay Wilder, given that I just watched Deontay Wilder get worked. And in case you can't see this, that is me saying Parker is fast. That might have been the fastest 1-2 I've seen a heavyweight throw since prime Tyson. That was after the first round of the Deontay Wilder and Parker fight. And then Parker went on to beat the piss out of Deontay Wilder for 12 straight rounds. Almost knocked him out a couple times. So it's almost like I have a trained eye for people punching people or something. I also have a trained eye for people who have subscribed to my channel. And when I see them, I go, that's my guy right there. That's my guy. And if I could tell they haven't subscribed, I'm like, ugh. Anyway, but I was talking about Demetrius Johnson. So we're going to talk, we'll show some video of him, you know, giving his thoughts on the Andrew Tate and Jake and Logan Paul thing, and Tristan Tate as well. And also, I also want to throw in a story about Andrew Tate being denied the ability to go see his dying mother in the UK. That's a real story. He applied for the ability to travel to the UK because his mother had a heart attack, and he wants to go see her to make sure he's able to see her before she dies, potentially. And the Romanian government, after keeping him in jail for whatever that amount of time was without even having been convicted, they're now not going to let him go see his mother who might die. So I feel like there's some stuff to discuss there, you know? And maybe my opinion might not be exactly what you guys expect it to be. Maybe. But anyway, so that's what we're going to do. Let's start with the Jake Paul story. All right. So here's the deal. When I first saw this, I assumed that the accusation was going to be against Jake Paul just because of the weird circumstances kind of surrounding that fight, but it's not. It is. I mean, well, it depends on how you look at it. Jake Paul owns the promotions company. Okay. The fight that's being investigated, are these two guys, Giannis Tellez and Livian Navarro. So one guy's 7-0, the other one is 15-2. And there was a lot of betting on this fight, and the bets didn't make sense, all right? So, like, here's the deal. The way that you get flagged by the investigating bodies is, believe it or not, there are some pretty consistent metrics. There are consistent metrics when it comes to betting, where if something is out of this world, all of a sudden, it's out of the norm, and then suddenly the outcome matches where these very large bets came from, you know, in the direction that they went. And you find yourself on their radar, and they're like, well, let's see how bad this was. Like, as an example, you guys all know what happened with, you know, the UFC event, right? When you have a coach who has a betting Discord, and then on a fight where his fighter is in said fight, and then so much betting goes in at the very last minute that his fighter is going to lose in the first round, right? Against a guy who's never won by knockout in the UFC, that starts to look pretty suspicious. And then his fighter injures himself instantly in the first round. And it's like, wow, well, you know, I feel like we should probably look into that. And obviously that was the James Krause story, and that is why that all happened. So in this case, what you had was a similar situation where you had a guy whose fights had never gone past 4 rounds. Here. Okay, so the prop bet is this. All right. Oh, wait. So it ended up being a knockout. All right. I'm not going to show it to you because then I'll probably get this restricted. But there was a knockout. So they're like, okay, so what's the problem? The thing is, everybody bet on the fight to go over 5.5 rounds. Okay. So all this money came in for it to go over 5.5 rounds when Tellez had never had a fight go over 4 rounds. Every single fight he's ever had, he knocked the guy out in the first 4. And suddenly hundreds of thousands of dollars, multiple 6-figure bets are coming in on over 5.5 rounds. All right. Now, why is that notable? And why would that be so believable that this would be a fix? Because it's simple. It doesn't require the guy to throw the fight at all. The guy who is actually fixing the outcome doesn't need to throw the fight. He just needs to not knock his opponent out in the first 5.5 rounds, right? So he ends up winning by knockout in the 10th round, the last round of the fight, right? But all that money just went in on the over for 5.5 rounds. So that is what's happening. Now, you know, Jake Paul is not accused of any wrongdoing in the investigation. I mean, I would hope not. Why on earth would Jake Paul do anything illegal for money at this point? You know what I mean? It's like if he fixed a fight that he was in for some reason, I mean, I could be like, all right, well, I could kind of understand that. But to just do it on some undercard fight, bet a few $100,000, like, what do you think? That would be pretty stupid if you're Jake Paul. And obviously he's not accused of that. Although I would say that, I mean, listen, dude, if the only evidence that they have is just the irregularity of the bets, that it's like, why would so many people be betting on the over and then this happens? I mean, theoretically, they should have a pretty hard time proving that, right? Like, they should have a pretty hard time proving that. Because if the only person who knows is the guy who is the boxer himself, and all he has to say, yeah, of course I was trying to knock him out for that. What are you talking about? I won by knockout. I was trying. Show me where I wasn't trying. Show me where I wasn't trying. I don't see how you would prove that unless you have someone talking. And I never assume the intelligence of criminals anymore. I really don't, man. Because like in my brain, it's like if I was a triplet, right? Like if there were 3 of me and we had, you know, we shared one brain, I would just know on autopilot that my other 2 accomplices are bulletproof, rock solid, because of course they know the only way we get caught on this is if someone admits it or says something stupid. And there's no one who could prove that I wasn't trying in the fight. So as long as I know they're rock solid, how on earth would they catch us? But usually people are stupid and they talk, you know. It's as if they don't understand the concept of what these investigators are doing. That's actually, I know I'm derailing this video, but I just think this is an interesting enough concept to discuss. All right. I'll put chapters in if you just want to fast forward to whatever, you know, the Tate stuff. But like, when you're sitting in a station where law enforcement is taking your statement, right? If you are a suspect, if they're investigating you, they have one purpose for asking you these questions. That is to build a case that they can present to people to convince them of an outcome that they want to shape, which will lead to you going to jail. You're not going to talk your way out of it. People go in there and they think that, oh, well, I don't want to just not answer because then they'll think I'm guilty. And it's like, all right, I mean, maybe there's some validity to that if you're not already a suspect. As soon as they say you are a suspect, every single thing that you say is going to be written down and they're going to see how they could structure it to build a case against you. Why on earth would you say anything at all? Like, there's no scenario where you go blah, 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 and they go, oh, really? Oh, well, geez, I hadn't thought of that, you know? Let's just let him go, you know? Let's just let him. I'm convinced. I'm glad that you told me that full story now, because I'm definitely not going to use it to ask you questions later and trip you up and show that you made mistakes in your different stories. I actually am just fully convinced of what you said. So just go ahead, take off. Just, you know, have a good time on the ride home. Don't say anything. Well, first of all, don't commit crimes. Let's just start there. Don't commit crimes. But if you commit a crime, shut up. Just shut up. Shut up. There is nothing benefited by I'm saying if you're guilty, you know, like if you didn't do anything, just tell them exactly what happened. Just be like, dude, I didn't do anything. What are you talking about? Tell them the 100% truth. If you're guilty, don't say shit. Don't say anything. Nothing. 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 Zero. Nothing. Politely, you know, you don't need to be like act like you can't speak, but like just respond like, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. No, I don't know. I don't want to comment on that. Oof. Yeah, I'm not sure. You don't know where you were. I mean, I would assume I was at home. You would assume. So were you at home? I don't know. I would assume so. You would assume so. Because why assume? Because then if they later on, some reason you have to respond to the things you said in that interview, you said, yeah, I said assume. I didn't say that's where I was. I told you I didn't really remember. I had assumed that I was there. You placed me over there? All right, so I was wrong. I said I assume. I didn't say I was there. But they're smart enough to know that, so they're going to try to trap you into saying exactly where you were, because that's the only reason you're there, is for them to trap you. Don't be dumb. They're not your fucking friends. But also, like I said, don't commit crimes, okay? My plan is to never be in that situation and thus never have to implement any strategy that I'm laying out here. Probably going to edit all of this out. But anyway, so yeah, hopefully a guy, hopefully he got paid. Because, I mean, he won the fight. That is the equivalent, like that's the boxing equivalent of point shaving. You know, you guys know what point shaving is? Is when, like, say a basketball team is favored by 14 points. And so they win the game, but they just make sure that they only win by 13 or less. So it's like, dude, we're not asking you to lose the game. We're just saying, like, I mean, does it matter if you win by 6 or 16? Well, not really. Well, cool. If you win by 6, you can have $10,000. It's amazing how many college kids fall for that. I've heard in, many documentaries I've watched about this. Now, I also wanted to talk about Jake Paul and Logan Paul fighting, Andrew and Tristan, but I wanted to show this thing that I saw on the Wade Concept where he's talking about what Jake Paul is doing next, because it's pretty cool. I'm going to let you hear it from him and then we'll discuss.
He has to. And that means this USA Olympics boxing thing, it's not just to give them shine, it's for him to get better. Like, we're not even talking about that. The aspect of him going and training with some of the best boxers and amateurs in the world, USA Olympic Training Center, he's doing that essentially as his camp. That's why he's going there this winter. The Olympics are in April, his fight's in March. It lines up pretty perfectly. This move with the USA Boxing does make me think his ceiling is higher than it potentially was. I'm legitimately honest about that. Like, this kind of commitment to go and train months and months and months with these guys and girls, it's only going to continue to raise his ceiling. And this is another reason why, and people are going to get mad at me when I say this, I am not sure we ever get Jake versus KSI. Straight up. Like, is that something that is surprising to us at this point? I don't think it's ever happening.
I'm not sure either, but that actually brings up a point that I wanted to make in a second. But first, just on the Team USA. So Jake Paul's going to train with Team USA. And, I mean, dude, this guy is living like a person who wants to become a world champion. Bottom line. All he's doing is boxing. That's all he's doing. And he's going to train with Team USA. And, I mean, dude, he's going to improve. Like, that's how this works, Like, if you go and you go down the street and you train at, like, the place that just says, like, martial arts. And they're all, yeah, we could teach you jiu-jitsu there. And then if down the street John Danaher is there and you train there, like, how much better do you think you're going to get at the John Danaher one versus, like, the just martial arts in the shopping center place? Like, if you go train with Team USA, those are like the best guys in the country. You're going to get a lot better. And Jake Paul is obviously super athletic. He's good enough to be knocking these guys out that are not necessarily top tier elite boxers, but that's where boxers that are at his stage, that's who they fight. They got to get their records up. They got to get to be like 17-0 before they start fighting real guys. So anyway, I think that's notable. I am obviously behind everything Jake does. I've only seen things that I like from that guy. Now, speaking of that, so I went hard in the paint on Logan Paul about the law. I'd never said anything about him until he bragged about bankrupting Dylan Dennis. We talked about this 1,000 times. God, every time I even think about that, it makes me so mad that I threaten like just derailing the entire conversation, which I'm actively trying not to do. Is like, you've heard me say everything before, so I'm not going to do it again. But are you fucking serious, dude? You know, it's like bankrupted. All right, so what I wanted to say about Logan and Jake was that I went hard on him recently because he let KSI do this thing where he put on the sparring thing against Speed at the exact same time as the Jake Paul fight. And I was like, why would Logan allow his business partner to do this and attack his brother? Now, I always leave the door open that something I am watching on TV or on the internet could be promotional work. And I always say, I'm like, in which case, everything that I just said, disregard it. If this is there's nothing off the table when it comes to promotional stuff. And I'm going to talk about that when I do my video tomorrow about Ariel's tirade about, the direction that this, fight promotion has gone and how they need to start having sanctions. They need to start censoring people. So I'm going to cover that either tonight or tomorrow. But if it's fight promotion, I just go, yeah, all the things I said, just disregard them. If it's you, person that I'm talking about, and this is not real, then just disregard everything I said. I've got a skeleton key on forgiveness when you are doing it for promotional purposes. But as mad as I was about Logan doing that, because I have a little brother, I was like, what? I just couldn't see how hamstringing Jake's event over here could possibly make sense. Then they started talking about doing a Jake Paul KSI fight. Then I saw that they're not even putting the fight that he was doing on pay-per-view. And I'm like, so KSI was actually promoting Jake's fight when he did that, because now you got all KSI's people looking there, and then they're also promoting a fight between Jake Paul and KSI. Then at the event, Logan was carrying Jake around the entire time, and it was like brotherly love. And I was like, all right, cool. That makes a lot more sense because my goodness gracious. On the flip side of that was just terrible. So I'm glad that I was wrong. I'm assuming I was wrong. I'm glad that was a big, collaboration of promotion and then setting up Jake Paul to fight KSI. And, yeah, for sure, I think Jake wins that, for the record. But anyway, so when it comes to Andrew Tate, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, Tristan Tate, there's nothing to even talk about here. This is the easiest. This is easy, okay? This is easy. If it's MMA, the Pauls win. If it's kickboxing, the Tates win. Simple as that. Simple as that. Which really honestly means that for once, I would say it's probably better if it's a boxing match. I never say that. But maybe in MMA gloves. Okay? So that's my contribution to the Jake, Logan, Tristan, and Andrew Tate thing, is you don't do MMA because the Pauls will win. You don't do kickboxing because the Tates will win. You do boxing in MMA gloves. Help out Logan, because then Logan might be able to knock out Andrew Tate if he lands. MMA gloves. And also, help out Andrew Tate. I don't know what his knockout power here is. I'm sure he's actually got pretty decent knockout power. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I think I've seen him knock someone out with the hands. Just completely retract that I said that about Andrew Tate. But yeah, you put him in MMA gloves. That's going to sell that fight. I'm in like Flynn. So that's what they should do. Boxing, MMA gloves, get it done. 40 mil. They're like, oh, put up 40 million. It's like, I mean, all right. What kind of numbers do you think that thing's going to do? 40 million is going to be, babe. They'll be able to pretend like they're all paying this and it's all a big bet and everybody will make lots of dough. Anyway, so continuing on to the other Andrew Tate story. Now let's bring Andrew Tate into this conversation, because Andrew Tate was denied his request to go to the UK to see his mother after she had a heart attack. And it was the Romanian government that is not letting him go. They've really treated him really well, They've treated him really well. The presumption of innocence is not a thing that exists in Romania. And I have really mixed feelings about this this situation with Andrew Tate just broadly. But when it comes to this kind of thing, a son and his brother want to go see their mother who had a heart attack, I have a hard time being on the other side of let them go, right? But, you know, listen, dude, this is the, I mean, and at the end of the day, this is the story. Andrew and Tristan Tate's mother had a heart attack in the UK. They have been on house arrest since they were let out of jail. They were in jail for 6 months without being convicted or even going to trial for that matter. And they were let out after 6 months and have been on house arrest. But then they recently were released from total house arrest and they're allowed to travel around Romania. So as long as they don't leave the country, they're allowed to basically do whatever they want. Okay, so they asked if they could go to the UK to see their mom because their mom had a heart attack. Obviously, she can't come to Romania. And honestly, given all the stuff that's going on there with them, I wouldn't let my family come there either. But they requested the ability to go see her, and it was denied. So how do you guys feel about that? Let me just ask that first. Before I even talk about it, how do you guys feel about that? Because at first glance, I mean, when I actually saw this last night, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna do a heavy video on this because that's super messed up, dude. You get the government, you're not gonna let him go see his mom who just had a heart attack. And then when I read a little bit more about it, I was like, okay, but in fairness, if they left, what's the likelihood they come back? You know, like seriously. And I'm not saying that what the Romanian government is doing throughout all of this is right or wrong or whatever. I'm just saying, if your consideration is, should I let them go do blah, 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 and your decision criteria is, as long as I believe they will come back to face the trial, then I'll let them go. Would you feel confident about that? You know, I wouldn't. They're facing how many years in jail? And as long as they get out of Romania and into you think the UK is going to extradite them to Romania? Even the UK that hates them, they're not going to set a precedent where they extradite UK citizens and hand them over to a former Soviet bloc country like Romania. That's not a thing that's going to happen. So yeah, I would say flight risk is very high if they went. Would you go back to Romania if it was you? I wouldn't. But like I said, I think it's super messed up to not let a person go see their dying mother. What I think they should do is, kind of shit or get off the pot and either put the guy in jail for what he did or let this case go. It's like, I don't feel like this is a super complicated case. I would even say that most of all of us know the details of the case, right? Like all of it's kind of public record now. You can read the court documents, which make him sound pretty bad in a lot of cases. And the interviews are out there of him straight up saying what he did. The transcripts from his Discord are in there. The ones where he was talking specifically about the girl. I saw these ones where he was specifically talking about the girl, and where I can't remember what country she was from, but she came over thinking that she was going there to marry him. And then he was explaining to like his Discord group, like exactly how he handled it. And he basically isolated her, made her, feel that like the rules were she could not leave without him there. So she's in her house. He cut off her finances. So she wasn't able to pay for anything without him. She's completely reliant on him. Then he told her that he had been talking to someone from her hometown who had said that she was very slutty at home. He's completely making this up. And he's telling everyone that he was making it up. And that he convinced her that that he had heard these rumors about her. And so he was very kind of apprehensive about her talking to anyone from her hometown. And so he isolates her, makes her broke, and then tells her essentially that like, it's not going to work with us. She's completely relying on him. And it's not going to work for us. It's not going to work with us if you talk to anyone from your hometown. So just keep that in mind. I don't want you talking to anyone from there. Not your parents, not your siblings, not your friends. That part of your life is over because I can't trust that part of your life because people told me that you were a hussy. And all of this is breaking her down so that the option that she has to take is to get on camera and do cam work, because you've cut off all of her options and gotten her mentally broken, and now she's going to follow whatever you say. And then when she starts doing the cam work, you're going to split the money with her kind of, but then you're going to also keep an additional 30% that you tell her is for taxes, but it's not actually for taxes. You're just keeping the money. So like those things, I heard him say these things. You know, like I've heard him say these things. So I'm like, you know, can people reinvent themselves and do better? Yeah, they can. And so if he says, listen, I converted to Islam, I don't believe in any of the things that I said before. I'm a different person now. I have kids. That was years and years and years ago. I'm not proud of what I said. All right, you know, like I believe in people being able to reinvent themselves or, you know, improve themselves. But let's just say hypothetically that the person who did that to a girl did something like that to one of my daughters, you know. I would have, there's literally nothing that I could do to that person or the people they love that would bring even a millimeter of guilt. A millimeter of guilt. I used to watch those R. Kelly, like I watched like the Surviving R. Kelly. You guys remember that documentary? And the part that really just crawled under my skin was when they showed the dad and the wife who were trying to get to their daughter, but their daughter refused to talk to them because she was like with R. Kelly, and R. Kelly, he was like locking them in rooms with nothing but a bucket, made one of them cut their hair all short. You guys remember that? And they like, her dad was actively trying to get to her and he couldn't get her on the phone. R. Kelly's so rich that like he had security everywhere. There's no way for this father to be able to get to his daughter. He knows she's in this hotel room that he knows she's in a hotel that he is actively in, and there's no way for him to get to her. She refuses to speak to him. She's a grown up, you know, like she's 20 years old or whatever. So like, what are you going to do? You call the police. They're like, there's nothing we can do, dude. She's 20. If she doesn't want to talk to you, she's not going to talk to you. And on the other side of that is R. Kelly, this sick, twisted, demented psycho who probably got passed around like a blow-up doll when he was a kid to, you know, who knows what. But so he grew up into a complete and total psychotic monster. But I watched that and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, if someone did this to me and my family, I actually like, not the kind of thing you say on YouTube. Think about like the most horrifying thing that you've ever heard of like a cartel doing to someone. And like, I would for sure, you know, handcuff a person, put them into my car, and then just hand them to the people that did that. And I'd be like, here you go. Hey man, you picked the wrong fucking family. Enjoy your ride. I'm sure I'll see a videotape of it. These guys love to videotape the things they do and put it on the internet. I'll make sure to look for that. Think of me while they're doing what they're going to do. I tried not to say it. Anyway, so yeah. Pulling myself out of it though, I do think that this is an incredibly politically driven situation in terms of why he's being investigated. I don't believe that this would have happened if Andrew Tate did not become an enormous social influencer and, you know, say the things that he said.